All right, from numbers to dreams, crafting your tax mindset journey. So it's incredible how you've navigated the path from numbers to dreams. Can you share how developing the right tax mindset can be a great game changer for aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think mindset is everything, if you really think about it, because especially when it comes to tax, because what most people struggle with, and this is not just, consumers' fault or entrepreneurs' fault or accountants' fault. I think it's kind of the responsibility could be shared between all of us. But the idea is that accounting has become this commodity. Taxation, tax preparation has become this commodity over the last 20 years. And there's a reason for it. Accountants have utilized technology for a lot of the solutions and then passed over those savings to the clients. And so they're taking more and more and more clients. I think the average in the country is like 916 per firm, including one-person firms, which is insane, of tax clients. And so you think you have this great accountant, and a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs and individuals have this mindset of, oh, my accountant's really great. No, don't, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to do anything. But then when you show them how much money they've been overpaying, and the reason that they've been overpaying is because the accountant they've used, which is the majority of accountants, is a traditional accountant, which means that they work on building the volume, building the practice, then they hire somebody to help them, then they again build the practice to pay for that person, then they need somebody else, and then that catch 22, that rat race never stops. And so it's more and more and more clients, lower price to compete with others, whereas there's really no competition because accountant enrollment is falling and all of that. But the idea is that when you realize that I work with, let's say, less than 50 accounting clients, tax clients, and the reason is that because I want to spend the time needed for me to look at everything. Because if you are one of 916 clients of an accountant, how much time do you really think they spend looking at how much money you could save if you incorporated a few strategies?
Right.
Zero.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's we kind of are similar parallel universes because that's the same thing that happens in my practice. Like, oh, I'm with Merrill Lynch, or my attorney. I have an attorney. He reviews everything once a year. Well, there's a lot more to look at than just that, right? And there's almost like it's not even a conscious arrogance that you think, oh, I have this or I'm with that, and then you don't have to do anything. But it does really, like, if you step back, it's amazing, like someone like you, how you can find money. You can, you can show people. That's what I do. You show people where they're leaking their money. You can show people where they're paying too much tax. The other preparer that's in that, mill, the tax mill, that they have to have a lot of clients to make their money. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of practice. So that's, that's why I had you on there, because you've got that kind of consciousness that's bigger, than just the mill.
Yeah.
And there's
And
so much, you'll know this, and I'm sure it's different now, but a few years ago, I don't know, maybe it was 7 years ago, I spoke to in Washington D.C. to the U.S. Financial Officers Association, and I was talking about the IRS code book. Now, these are the guys that handle the billions and trillions of dollars, so I had to have the page numbers right. It was 74,000 something pages. I bet you it's a lot bigger right now, right? I mean, there's so many tax laws. So the point is that it's revealing the hidden revenue, the magic of tax strategies. So you've unveiled some hidden revenue, for countless businesses through tax planning. So give our listeners a little sneak peek of these magic tax strategies.
one of the ones that are easy enough to implement, and you do need to have paper trail to support it. You do need money trail transfers and things like that to support it so that you're audit ready. But one of those things is something called the Augusta rule, Augusta. It was a court case, and it's a code section that allows you to rent your home, let's say a living room in your home, similar to a conference room you would rent at a hotel or whatever. Rent it to your business for 14 days a year. So if you rent it to your business 14 days a year, and typically corporations and even LLCs and partnerships do have some sort of an obligation to meet, whether it's partnership meeting or board of directors meeting, even if you're the only board member, meeting with yourself, planning, creating plans and goals and setting goals for your business is also counts, because you do need that time to work on the business and not in the business. When that happens, typically you can rent your living room to your business, and your business takes it as a full deduction, and you don't pick it up as income, because under 14 days, if you rent your home to anyone for fair market value, you don't have to pick it up in income, which is awesome. What I would say to be cautious about and careful about is the not to abuse this rule. There was recently a court case that significantly, they didn't disallow the deduction for this rule, but they significantly reduced it because the people were abusing it. I believe the number was somewhere around 200,000 for the year or something like that. So the court disallowed a big portion of it to bring it down to the realistic number and fair market value of that. And so what we do typically for a client, we would do some sort of an analysis of neighboring hotels that rent out conference rooms for the day, offices or shared offices that rent out conference rooms for the day, and we would come up with a daily rate. We would also not create, but rather have you sign a lease agreement between your company and yourself as a landlord, or yourself and your spouse potentially, and basically rent it out to yourself so that your paperwork is intact, so that there are payments for those days and there's clear payment coming through the business account to your personal account. So that's one of the bigger ones. And so I've seen, real estate agents. One of my clients is a real estate agent, and he sent me a screenshot of this guy in their group saying, oh, my accountant, you should know about this. And if you want introduction, I'll introduce you. My accountant is, we're deducting $5,000 a day for renting my home to my business and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm getting a $75,000 deduction. And I text my client, there's no way in hell that I will ever be able to defend this outrageous amount in court. And I'm a United States tax court practitioner, which means I can represent people in tax court. I know the rules of evidence and practice and procedure. And so for me, it's important when we use these strategies to be certain, to be confident that I can defend it, because there's been a case before that. And so now this case that was recently, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that came out, that case was about not disallowing this deduction, which means that this is a valid strategy, but it was just, you can't abuse it. So that's the kind of the bottom line. It's a big one.
Interesting. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, let's shift a little bit and talk about scaling up with financial confidence and operational insight. So scaling a business is a goal for many. I'm in the middle of it right now again. So how does having the right tax mindset and financial confidence contribute to successful scaling, and what operational insights can you offer?
So scaling is a complex matter, right? But at the same time, you have to understand, you have to start with the goal. What's the goal of this scaling? Is it to multiply the unique product? What's the purpose of it, right? Is it for you to be able to build up and sell? Just be realistic and be truthful with yourself about it, right? But before you even start scaling, you need to create, I think that's the essential, probably the most essential element of scaling a business, is to create the consistent and predictable inflow of leads and conversions, which basically consistent and predictable inflow of revenue. And so a lot of businesses don't think about the one-time versus recurring revenue, right? And I'm all for like a really healthy combination of the two, where you have the recurring revenue that you can count on, but then you have these inflows of cash where maybe you do a special project when you have extra time, or maybe your staff can handle some of it for you and things like that. So having this consistent inflow of revenue and having a solid expense structure, meaning that you know where you spend, how much, when the payments are coming up. You're aware of your cash flow management. It's probably critical before you start scaling. When you scale a business, you need to understand how you're going to grow, because you're not going to grow today. You're hiring 15 people because you have 15 times the revenue, right? You have to plan it. So you have to understand, when do you need to hire a new person for the next chunk of revenue that's coming in? And you know that if you have a consistent inflow of revenue, whether it's recurring or one time, you understand your capacity. So assessment of your capacities from an operational perspective is also super important, right? And then you'll have this number of, I almost want to call it a break-even point, but it's not a break-even point. There's actually a word for it, which I can't remember right this moment. But when you understand how much in revenue has to come in, or how much of the work has to come in for you to be able to start looking for the next hire. And it has to be very strategic, obviously, because you can hire a lot of people and then there's not enough work. And you always keep your eyes on the revenue, always, because revenue is the lifeblood of a business.
Okay, that's good. That makes sense. So now let's get into a little bit about the side hustles and tax triumphs that will empower all ages. This got my attention. So you know, of course, advocate entrepreneurship at every age, and that's inspiring. So how can building side hustles, right, and business owners leverage the tax mindset to pave their financial freedom, right? Because a lot of people have to have side hustles these days to make ends meet, right?
Yes. I am a big fan of entrepreneurship because I'm an accountant. And so a US tax code is geared towards small business. And, you know, I grew up in the Soviet Union, and so I have something to compare it to. And what I've realized as I went to school for accounting is that in the US has become an economic superpower, yes, due to wars and everything else, because, you know, everybody benefits from the war. I mean, not everybody, but many people benefit from the war, especially the US, because we sell, you know, guns and tanks and whatever, right? So we make money. The economy is booming during the war. So that was partially the reason. But the other big reason for the US becoming a world superpower was the support of entrepreneurship. US tax code is geared toward around entrepreneurship solely because there's wrinkles and there's opportunities and credits and deductions that you can only get if you're in business, especially after the 2017 law changes. It's even more that way. They've removed the employee business expenses and things like that. And so now it's even more important. The thing that people often with side hustles don't realize when it comes to tax mindset, and not only side hustles, a lot of business owners don't realize that too, is that when you hire somebody like me to save you money on tax proactively, I pay for myself. So let's say I save you $30,000, you pay me 10. It's a return on investment of 300%. What people don't realize is they look at the 10 as their bill. I've been paying $1,500 to my accountant. Now you're charging me 10? Yes, but I'm saving you 30. So that mindset has to come in when you run a business and when you run a side hustle. And what side hustles are super important, and the pandemic has shown us that they're super important. And the reason is that you have to have diversity. You know this better than anybody else, right? You have to diversify your portfolio. So when you have one job, I mean, if it's a job like working in a hospital, you know, hopefully you keep it, right, and you make more because you work more shifts. But what if it's a job that was in a restaurant or a hotel, or, you know, hospitality industry really suffered? And so having a side hustle is really critical. And plus it allows you to also think like an entrepreneur. And I think that thinking as an entrepreneur applies to our financial personal lives as well every day. Because if we don't understand that if we have X coming in and Y coming out, and the delta, the change is negative, we're running out of money every month. That's common sense. And yet we don't seem to apply that common sense to our lives. But when you have a side hustle, you start getting into it. So I think it's also a great experience to managing your own personal finances when you have a side hustle, besides bringing you the extra income and
Right, right,
allowing you for tax deductions.
right. That's right. So your commitment to excellence has really been the driving force of your journey. And so how do you use that when you're crafting resilient financial strategies? And how do the listeners infuse this mindset into what they do, to their endeavors?
You know, when I went to college, and I've graduated in 2009, what changed it for me was this one accounting professor. She's my favorite professor. I've taken 5 classes with her, which, and I've gotten an A+, and she was considered the toughest professor in accounting in college. She said this, which really changed my approach to everything. She said, there's this expression, I believe by, actually, I'm not going to lie, maybe not Aristotle, but excellence is a matter of choice. And then she added to it, so is mediocrity. And it really stuck with me. And I chose to excel in everything that I've done since then because it's a choice.
Right. Right.
And so when
right.
when I work with clients, when I design their plan, because every tax plan is different, because every human is different. Your goals are different, your situation is different. You have some have family, kids, some don't have family or kids, some are single or whatever. When I design it, I approach it with, how would I want to be treated?
Exactly.
I would want to be kept out of jail. And that's why I would not be the accountant that would be aggressive in the deductions, which I often hear from prospective clients. Are you aggressive on deductions? What does that mean?
Right.
I'm not going to break the law if that's what you're saying, but there are legal ways of reducing your tax without having to break the law and make yourself subject to an audit or penalties, because ultimately at the end of the day, you are the one who's signing the return.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the commitment to
Right.
excellence.
That's it right there. And so you are a captivating TEDx speaker. Okay. And so you've shared your transformational insights. So maybe recount a speaking experience that gave that shift. I mean, you're talking tax mindsets and lessons learned, and you're sharing with people. Do you have like an experience that happened to you during this time?
During a TEDx speaking?
Yeah, or just sharing, with sharing, because we're all stuck in and TEDx just puts you in front of a lot of people. But it could be in front of a small group of people where, like what you just said about renting out the room. Now, that was really, I've kind of heard that before, but it immediately got me, moving into, okay, well, maybe there's more I need to look into here, right? And I think that's really, why I said the TEDx speaker, because these are transformational insights. These are things that if you just listen and take heed, that you can actually save some taxes, right?
Yeah. I mean, my speaking career has been interesting. I was professionally trained. I signed up for training right before COVID happened. And then the speaking
Wow.
industry fell asleep for like 2 years.
Basically, still, yeah.
Yeah. So I've done some of the speaking, some of the training, and a lot of the training has to do with first writing your speech. Because what actually happens, and this is something that I'm toying with, there's this expression called accidentally on purpose. That's what
Right.
speaking is.
Yeah.
Speaking is when you're so prepared that it looks like you're just naturally a great speaker, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've done 3 TEDx's this year. I wanted to do one at least, and then I got booked for 2, and then I was asked and almost begged to do a third, which I think was my probably the best one in terms
Yeah.
of just it being more life instead of business. My second TEDx was interesting because it was a handheld microphone. my first TEDx, I had two lavalier mics here. One was for the camera, one was for the room. It was a lot of people, and it was really cool. The second TEDx was a handheld microphone, and I like to use my hands when I talk, and so I was like, oh my God,
Right.
I'm risking like not doing a great audio because I'm like talking with my hands. But I actually rehearsed
Right.
beforehand, and it worked well. But what was
Yeah.
interesting is that with these handheld microphones, you can get an echo. And so when I walked onto the stage, I heard an echo. And so I was trying to like move and got a little nervous because I was like,
Yeah.
like my
It's an
content is
art.
here.
It's
So it was
yeah.
interesting.
It's an art for sure. Well, I've been speaking for 3 decades, probably older than you are. and but I think it's taken me to this time to actually just be real and talk to people from that calm place instead of trying to be all these different things. And there really is an art to using that microphone. I also, I'm a singer songwriter too, so there's definitely art, and there's a lot of training to it. But
Yeah.
you you can empower people by just a few things that you say from your heart. It is so amazing. And you have some neat visions. We talked about it before we started. I want you to share with everybody um, your future tax mindset and your financial empowerment. But you were talking about what was the name of that again? Your
The business health clinic.
business health clinic. I just think because I'm a healthy, money, happy life. Because let's be real. Nobody wants to talk about death and taxes. So, and if you change the mindset that it's empowering to make sure that your assets are safe from market loss. It's empowering to not pay taxes. It doesn't have to be scary and icky because it'll give you peace of mind. It'll make you feel good, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I want to encourage you to do that. And I want to encourage everybody that's listening to reach out to you. So tell everybody how they can get in contact with you.
Sure. I live on Instagram. It's probably the fastest way to get in touch. And this business health clinic is going to be an answers to your question, trying to diagnose what's going on and giving you the prescription for what's the best solution, whether it's something that we could provide internally or something that we can recommend somebody else for you to engage, whatever that is. It's meant to find answers to your questions and really help you keep your business healthy, because healthy business means healthy life, because business is personal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. Healthy business, happy life. Right. Well, I'm healthy money, happy life. But it is. It's true. And paying less tax is a happy life.
For
And you,
sure.
so it's been fabulous having you and talking about this kind of hard conversation and making it fun and empowering. And there's so much more I'm sure we can deep dive at another time. But I just want to thank you for showing up today and being you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
What an enlightening conversation with Tatiana. Remember, your journey to financial empowerment and business prosperity has just taken an exciting turn. Tatiana's insights have certainly broadened our horizons on how to approach taxes and business growth. To stay connected, please visit her website, which we will have listed in our transcripts below. And if you've been inspired by today's episode and want to keep riding the wave of financial wisdom, hit that subscribe button, share the knowledge, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep embracing that tax mindset. Watch your financial potential soar. Healthy money, happy life. And create income you'll never outlive. There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.